I promise this video is not going to be 20 minutes again because apparently my dad hates it when my videos are over 20 minutes. And I always do what my father tells me, and he's gonna hate me for mentioning him in this video, but hello, good morning, or good evening, whenever you are watching this. I hope you are doing well. For those of you who may be new to my channel, my name is Catherine, and I am going to be doing my June reading wrap-up this week. Today in this video. In the month of June, I read 12 books. 7 of them were audiobooks, 5 of them were physical books. Before we get into the video, I just want to say I'm so excited because I now have a new laptop. Well, a new laptop to me. It's a refurbished laptop because I'm still unemployed. So that means that I can finally insert pictures of books, and when I'm talking about audiobooks, I can have a picture here. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna talk about the book. I'm gonna give a really brief synopsis. I promise it's gonna be brief because I can talk a lot, and I'm just gonna give you some thoughts. Up first was my first audiobook that I listened to, which was Autobiography by Christina Lauren. This book follows Tanner about 3 years after he has moved from California to Utah. Due to the fact that this is a very Mormon town, he is gently nudged back into the closet by his parents. He is now in his last semester of high school where he is taking what is called the seminar. Now in this class, the students are going to write a novel over the course of 1 semester, which sounds insane. The year previous, there was a student who not only completed his novel, but was able to sell it and have it published. And now this year, Sebastian is going to be a sort of TA, helper, mentor person helping out, and Tanner falls for this guy. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I loved the romance between Tanner and Sebastian, and this book really explored sexuality and religion and how the two intersect. My biggest problem with the book, and the only reason it didn't get 5 stars from me, because I did absolutely loved it. I was listening to it when I was on my daily walk to get out of the house because quarantine. There was one storyline with Tanner's best friend Autumn that I just could not get behind, and I wish it was handled differently. Up next is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. If you have watched my mid-year book freakout, you know, the tag that everyone does halfway through the year, you would know that I fell in love with this book. This book follows Liz Lightly, who after losing a scholarship, ends up running for prom queen because in this town, prom is a huge deal and you get a scholarship if you win prom queen. She has always been very introverted to herself. She doesn't want to be the center of attention because she is one of the few Black kids in the school. She's bisexual, I believe, but then she runs for prom queen and ends up falling for one of her fellow prom queen contestants. My absolute favorite part is Liz's whole journey throughout the book. Goes through such a transformation. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars, mostly because of the character development, not only with Liz, but with her relationship with her friends, as well as her whole relationship with her family. Her family is such a huge part of Liz's story, and it's such a beautifully written book. Up next is The Revolution of Birdie Randolph by Brandy Colbert. This follows Dove, aka Birdie, it's her nickname, who has always been the perfect daughter. She gets good grades in school, she goes to SAT prep during the summer, but when her estranged Aunt Charlene comes and stays with her family after her latest stint in rehab, and when Birdie starts to fall for Booker, this guy who has a sort of troubled past, she starts to own who she is and starts to ask for things that she wants. This is another one of those just really incredible books it's about a girl who isn't satisfied with the path that is put out in front of her. She wants so much more out of life. This book was filled with like a lot of twists and turns. Some of them I didn't see coming, some of them I did. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought that the character development of Birdie was so beautiful, and I just absolutely fell in love with Booker as well. The next book that I read was Slay by Brittany Morris. This book follows Kira Johnson, who is one of 3 Black kids at this honors private school. Again, this is a book where she is the perfect daughter, the straight A student, but she has a secret because she is the game developer of the highly popular online game called Slay. Slay is a virtual reality type video game that is developed and meant for Black people across the world to connect and celebrate their various heritages. However, because of an online dispute in her game, a kid is found murdered. There becomes a lot of questions that are arisen about the game Slay, about whether it is racist to white people, which just isn't a thing, or if it promotes violence or anything like that. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. It is such a beautiful book that has things that I don't understand and probably will never understand because of like the references that are made and just a lot of things that are talked about that I will never experience as a white woman. But it's not a book that is meant for me. That is like the main theme of this book, is this game is not meant for white people. It's for Black people to celebrate their Blackness. However, I did just absolutely love the storyline, and I feel like I did learn a lot while reading it, while also just enjoying the book and the writing in general. I thought that Kira was, again, a beautifully developed character who grows so much and is by the end able to really like stand up for herself and stand up for what she believes in. The next book that I read is the graphic novel The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. This book was given to me by one of my best friends, Jenna, for my birthday. This book is about Prince Sebastian, who is looking for a bride. Now, the problem is that he lives a sort of double life. During the day, he is the prince, and during the night, they are Lady Cristalia, with the help of their new dressmaker, Francis. This book explores gender identity and gender expression in a really beautiful way. The artwork in here is absolutely gorgeous. I want every single one of the dresses that Francis designs for Prince Sebastian because they are beautiful and I love them. It is such a beautifully written book. I highly recommend it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. This book is a Westworld meets The Handmaid's Tale, where Aster and Clementine were sold by their family to a welcome house. Welcome houses are seen as the best way for a lot of families to survive. When Clementine accidentally kills a man in order to protect herself, Aster, Clementine, and their friends make an escape from the welcome house and attempt to make it to a place where they can have the marks that establish them as good luck girls removed and they can finally be free. It is an adventure book of these girls who are just trying to survive and are victims of circumstance, really taking control of their lives and doing whatever it takes to survive. There is some romance involved, but it is not like the main plot of the story. It's just sort of like sprinkled in there, which is really nice because it's the kind of story where it's like, I don't want there to be a lot of romance because there's so much going on and there's so much that these girls are going through that like the last thing they need is a romance. I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Dear Haiti, Love Alaine by Maika and Mariza Moulite. This book follows Elaine and is told through multiple media sources, from emails to newscasts to Elaine's diary, as she is forced to go to her family's hometown in Haiti after there was an incident in her school because she likes to make an impression. She learns about Haitian history and also reconnects with her mother, who is a world-renowned broadcaster who recently got fired due to another incident. I don't want to spoil too much because there are a lot of like kind of reveals that happen, but this was such an interesting book because not only do you get this story where Elaine is like learning about her history, but you're along with her learning about this history of Haiti, where I honestly didn't know anything about Haitian history. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. The main reason that I gave it 4 stars was because there was like kind of magic, but like not actually magic. It's hard to explain, and like that aspect was confusing. The storyline itself was okay. It really was like the history aspect that made it interesting to me. The next book that I read was Dear Martin by Nick Stone. This book follows a black boy named Justice who, after being wrongfully detained and obviously racially profiled by a police officer, he begins writing letters to Martin Luther King Jr. in the form of a journal. And he starts this project to be more like Martin. After this incident, his eyes start to open up to the casual racism around him, especially as he does go to a predominantly white school. And despite the fact that he is an honor student who's going to a prestigious college, he is still constantly profiled and stereotyped. This is a beautifully written book. I absolutely adore Nick Stone's writing style and the way that it goes from like the letters written to Martin, as well as the way the dialogue is written in this book is really interesting. It's a very short book, but it's one of those books that's just important to read. I absolutely adored this one. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was Dredd Nation by Justina, Ireland. This book takes place in a alternate history timeline where what if in the middle of the Civil War zombies happened? Yeah, I did not see that one coming either. This book follows Jane McKean, who was born 2 days before the dead began to walk. Now America is completely changed, and there are laws established like the Native and Negro Re-Education Act that forces children to go to these training camps in order to battle the dead. Of course, it's not the white children that have to battle the dead. Jane is almost finished with her education at Miss Preston's school for attendance, which is basically girls who are trained to combat the dead while waiting on white ladies. And suddenly people are starting to disappear from the city of Baltimore that the school's located in. Jane is suddenly caught up in this whole conspiracy that starts to happen, and she is fighting for her life against these very powerful enemies, and all the while the dead are getting more and more powerful. This book was wild. There is so much that happens in this book and so much going on. I like can't even begin to explain all the different political commentary that takes place. There's like some romances that happen. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was We Set the Dark on Fire by Tehlor K. Mehia. In this world, there are a lot of myth and legends that put a certain type of person in power. And the men in power here get 2 wives. They have the primeras, who are the practical wives, and then there's the segundas, who are the more fun, pleasurable wives. Daniela Vargas is graduating as a primera and is being placed within one of the most prestigious families in this country. She does, however, have a secret where she's basically an illegal immigrant. While trying to keep this secret, she gets involved with a rebel resistance group that is trying to fight for equality. She also has to deal with the fact that the segunda that she is paired up with is one of her rivals from school. This book is filled with unexpected romances, so much political intrigue and commentary on our society today. It is a fantasy ? There are the gods and goddesses, but there isn't like a magic system. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I flew through the audiobook. I just had it on constantly listening to it, and I need to get my hands on the next book because wow, there is a cliffhanger. It stressed me out at the end. The next book that I read was The Kingdom of Back by Mariza. This book is about Mozart's sister. Did you guys know that Mozart has a sister? Because I didn't. This is a fantasy mixed with historical fiction, and it follows Mozart's sister, Nannerl. She desperately wants to be remembered, but because she is a woman in a time where women can't be anything more than the companions to men, she is constantly overlooked by her father, despite the fact that she has talents that are comparable and honestly just as good as her brother's. To pass the time, she tells her brother's stories of the Kingdom of Back. They are fantastical tales about a prince who was wrongfully taken from his kingdom and is trying to reclaim his throne. Well, the prince Hasten, I believe is how his name is pronounced, comes to Nannerl and claims to be her guardian and asks for her help to reclaim his throne. And in exchange, he will grant her anything her heart desires. It is such a beautifully written book with such a poetic language. It follows Nannerl when she's, I believe, 8 years old until, I believe, towards the end she's 18. So her entire childhood and teenagedom. She is constantly forced to downplay her ambitions and her talents and her hard work. She works so hard, but because it's not appropriate for a woman to be a composer at this time, she is forced to ignore the fire that is within her. The only thing that was confusing about this book was definitely the passage of time. So like I said, it spans about 10 years and there wasn't always clear time jumps. So it'd go from her being 8 to 10 to is she 12? Is she 14? It gets a little confusing and muddled in the middle, but that didn't overall take away and detract from the story. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. It definitely had these Narnia vibes where every time Nannerl and her brother travel to the Kingdom of Back, it's almost like Lucy stepping into the wardrobe. The last book that I read in the month of June was Love Creekwood by Becky Albertalli. Now, first thing y'all should know about me is I am Becky Albertalli trash. I love her writing style. I love her books. So this book takes place in the Simonverse. So it takes place after the second book, Leah on the Offbeat. And it follows our main characters of just Simon and Leah and Abby and Blue. I don't want to spoil the first book if y'all haven't read Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda, which you should. It's so good. It follows them in their first year of college, and it's entirely told through a series of emails. It's a cute, teeny tiny novella. This one actually added so much to the story, and it especially bridged the gap between the books and Love Victor, the TV show that came out recently on Hulu. This takes place through the course of an entire school year. Simon and Blue, they go through such a journey together. This one takes me through such a huge range of emotions. I read it in an hour and was just crying and laughing through the whole thing. If you haven't read these books, please read them. They're so cute. And I love this book. I love this so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Is it really a 5 out of 5 star book? I don't know, I might be a bit biased just because I love Becky Albertalli's writing. So that is it from me today. Those were all the books that I read in the month of June. I'm very excited for July. I'm not going to be posting a TBR because I don't stick to TBRs. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you got this far in the video, leave a comment, let me know if you've read any of these books. If you want to see more videos like this from me, go ahead and hit subscribe. I post new videos every Thursday and might start consistently posting videos on Monday. I don't know, we'll see. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, bye!